And this is a regular Board of Education meeting for the town of Weston, Connecticut. We have a quorum, and so the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There we go. Number 3 on the agenda is our student representatives to the Board of Education.
Hi, everyone.
Isabel, I just need to ask you a quick question.
Go for it.
Why a picture of the Harbor Bridge in Australia?
I have to be honest, I didn't even know it was the Harbor Bridge in Australia.
Well, there you go. Luckily,
It's an automated Google photo.
Okay, well, that is the Harbor Bridge in Australia, and now you learned something. There you go.
All right, I'm going to go around saying that tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, to start things off, we had homecoming week last week, and it was the halls, and in the halls of Weston, there was spirit everywhere. And this year's homecoming theme was Animal Kingdoms. The seniors were ocean themed, the juniors were the rainforest, sophomores were the Arctic, and the freshmen were the Savannah. Every grade decorated their golf cart with decorations matching their theme, and those carts were displayed at our Powerpuff game and the homecoming football game. The freshmen ended up coming out on top with their Savannah float. We also did our annual Deck the Doors competition and saw some great doors this year. At our last meeting, I talked to you a little bit about our idea to give out digital cameras to students in response to the new phone policy. And student government members took photos on digital cameras, and now we have a couple hundred of photos that we can display around the school, as well as on social media. To cap things off, the football team won their game on Friday against Notre Dame. And then coming up, we have PSAT day tomorrow for the sophomores and juniors. The freshmen and seniors are going on field trips tomorrow. Seniors are going to the ropes course, and the freshmen are going to 2 art museums and the Peabody Museum. We also recently had an assembly about the Say Something reporting system for Sandy Hook. And all 4 grades are now trained in the reporting system. We have Packed the Pantry coming up next in the high school, where we're collecting food for the food pantry next month. And we're planning on having an assembly for that. In other news, the boys soccer team is the #1 seed right now as they head into playoffs. And also, we're beginning to implement our new point system at the high school that we use to incentivize school spirit and dress ups and other things that we usually recap at assemblies. And also, we are looking forward to planning our boys volleyball game. That's going to be similar to Powder Puff, but basically flip-flopped. That's it. That's all we've got.
A lot. You just haven't told us what you're going to be for Halloween.
You want to go first? I mean, for me, TBD.
Okay.
I don't know about you. I think I'm being a Ninja Turtle.
There we go. Well, have fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Number 4, excuse me, is the approval of minutes for our September 15th meeting. Are there any changes that people would like to recommend? And the October 3rd minutes, any changes? So may I have a motion to approve, please?
I have it.
There you go, David.
Move that the Weston Board of Education. I had a battery mishap with my mouse. Move that the Weston Board of Education approve minutes from the September 15th, 2025 and October 3rd, 2025 meetings.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the motion passes. Number 5 is public comment. And as everyone knows, we read a disclaimer ahead of public comment. The board welcomes the opportunity to hear from members of the public about matters concerning Weston's public schools. Public comment is an important chance for the board to receive input and feedback from our school community. We listen attentively to all comments shared. While we value and pay close attention to public comment, it is our practice not to respond substantively or sometimes not at all during public comment. There are several reasons for this. First, engaging in a discussion on non-agenda items could violate the board's obligations to comply with the Freedom of Information Act. Second, the board or the administration may not be prepared to discuss certain matters raised in the first instance by a public comment. Third, the board develops its meeting agenda carefully to ensure that the board addresses matters that are pressing or relevant at the time of the meeting. We encourage members of the public with specific questions, concerns, or complaints about our schools to reach out directly to the superintendent. You may also email the board at our email address, boardofelucation@westonps.org. Additional details on public comment and board meetings can be found on our website, as are our bylaws relating to meeting conduct. And with that, Jody, do we have anyone from the public who would like to address the board?
Is there anybody that would like to speak for public comment right now? If so, please raise your hand. Anybody for public comment? Please raise your hand. Nope. I do not have anybody that is raising their hand at this time, so you can move on to the next agenda item.
Okay. Item number 6 is new business. Weston Board of Education policies, regulations, and bylaws. Erica, or
Yes, so we have 3 policies this evening that were discussed in policy subcommittee. The first one is civility, and I'm going to call upon Julie to give a brief overview regarding this policy.
Good evening, everyone. So the October Policy Committee meeting saw the review of a first draft of a revised civility policy. Many of you know we have had a civility policy in place in the district for many years. It was last revised in 2019, and the Policy Committee last winter entertained the idea of revising that policy, particularly because it's in its current form, it is highly prescriptive and detailed in the actual policy. And we were looking at how to separate the policy, meaning its purpose and expectations, from the administrative regulations. And so the draft that you see this evening reflects that shift, which includes a brief policy statement, including the purpose, which of course is to promote mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among employees, students, parents, and members of the public, as well as expectations for that conduct. And attached to that policy are some gently revised administrative regulations.
are there questions? Can I have, excuse me, can I have a motion to approve bylaw 9311?
I do have a question. So
Okay.
the motion looks like, so we typically do the first read, which I think is tonight, right?
Yes, we typically do two reviews of a policy, but I'm going to let Erica speak to this. We decided to see if we can move some of our policies along a little bit more quickly, so I'll leave this up to Erica.
So the bylaws, and I think Jody included a copy of the bylaws in your board packet, does allow the board to make a motion where you waive the initial reading and approve the policy as well as the second reading in one motion. And so Jody included language on the agenda this evening to reflect that. That's in an effort to sort of move along the work we have specific to policy review, revision, and the creation of new policy. I attended the committee meeting. The work in the committee is really robust. They're working hard to review language, to modify language, to change language. And with a robust committee review and work when it gets to the board level, I think it would be appropriate to waive the readings, make a motion to approve along with the waiving of the second reading, if the board's inclined.
All right, because it talks about civility and it's an issue that I think we've tackled quite heavily over the past 9 to 12 months. I am not comfortable waiving that. I think this needs to go around the community a little bit longer. I know myself, I've only had a chance to look at it briefly over the weekend. So my preference is not to waive the second reading.
If that's the case, then there's no action taken and you can move on to the next agenda item.
Is that the case, or is it?
If you do not wish to make the motion to approve at this first review, then you just bypass the motion and you can just move right on to the next policy for review.
Okay,
No action, no action is taken.
Well, that's one person's opinion.
Mhm.
Is it the opinion of the full board? I'm not suggesting
Mhm.
otherwise. I'm just procedurally, that's my question.
If there's anybody else that wants to make a motion to waive the second read and approve tonight, somebody can go ahead and make that motion. If not, then the motion just stands as is.
Okay.
And we don't take any action and we just move on.
Okay,
And
I
Putting
mean,
it out
come
there.
back-
Yeah, we're putting it
come
out
back
there
to
to
the
try and
board.
get people.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll come back to the board at the next meeting for approval.
okay, I just want to make sure that everyone has their voice. If everyone would, rather not move forward, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine with me, at least.
Right. I think we should accommodate David's request. I'm comfortable with that. And we'll
Okay,
go back to it next month.
Absolutely fine.
okay, that's great. Yeah, just so
Perfect.
everyone, everyone has a voice. Sorry.
The next one that you have is the 4118.22 Code of Ethics.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking. Yes.
So I'm also going to speak about this one. This is a new policy. We do not have a code of ethics policy. We have not previously had one in the district. This draft is modeled after the CABE model policy. In this vein, it has very minimal specific revisions to make it specific to Weston. So it is my recommendation that we adopt such a policy. But again, it is up to you how you would like to proceed. This is the first time that you are seeing this as the full board.
So are there questions of Julie? This is the first read, and I assume that we'll go forward with the process that we've always followed, which is a first read, then a second read. So if there are not questions of Julie, we can move on to the next item, which is student wellness.
Julie, I just have a quick question. When reading through the policy, it looked like, and this is, somewhat controversial, I guess, whenever you bring it up, but it looked like there wasn't anything on social media. Should there be something on social media in this? Did we deliberately not include something on social media? Does the CABE policy sort of have anything on social media? Just a little background on that would be helpful.
Sure. We have a separate social media policy in our grouping of personnel policies. And so it is not included here specifically for that reason, though we could include a reference to that policy here if that would be helpful.
Yeah, you may want to do that. Again, I'm open to sort of interpretation and, of course, any suggestion here. I just when we're talking about code of ethics, I figured we should at least make reference to maybe what the policy is for the district at a bare minimum.
Sure.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Michael. The next is The next is
Wellness.
the wellness. Yep. Sorry.
Great. I'll take that one. Good evening, everyone. The next policy is around the district wellness policy that was last updated in 2006. Since that time, we have updated state guidelines, and as well as our district practices have evolved since the last time that this was reviewed. This work started in May of 2024. I established a district wellness committee, which included administrators, teachers, our supervisor, our nursing supervisor, food service representatives, as well as facilities. And we also have invited students to participate in the committee as well. We met 8 times over the course of the year since then to review our current policy and practices so that when we revised the policy, it was reflective of what we actually do in Weston. In addition, part of the reason that we revised this policy is because at the time, Weston participated in the National School Lunch Program. We no longer participate in that. And we also wanted to make sure that the policy was aligned to the whole school, whole community, whole child framework, which, as you can see in the policy, really outlines our commitment and focus around physical activity, health and nutrition, social emotional learning, safety, and community and family engagement. The policy also reflects how we expect to oversee and manage the accountability of this policy on an annual basis, and we're going to use our wellness committee to help us do that. And it also provides a level of communication regarding this work out to the community as well. And that's it.
Questions of Tina?
Yeah, I actually have a few questions on this one. Tina, just to confirm, this is in the packet, this is like pages 29 through 34, something like that, the shipment document, policy regarding wellness?
Yes, it was based on the shipment policy 5141, and we merged that content with our own and updated it based on the fact that we follow a different framework.
Great. A couple things to call out, and a few of these so a couple things to call out. One, just to highlight, and this is mostly just issues that have been mentioned to me in email or things like that by parents, and I honestly I've not had enough supervision to speak with a ton of context on this, but as an example to highlight one point, the removal of recess will not be used as a consequence for classroom behavior for any student per state law. That's an important point to underline, and I think that there was some incident of recess aid or something like this. Anyway, point being that one, as well as nutrition services, I've had a bunch of parents ask me about that through the years, primarily about the access to ultra-processed food and snacks and cookies and that sort of thing in the cafeteria. And then the third thing to flag would simply be, and thank you, Michael, for bringing up social media in the previous point. Therefore, I didn't have to, but as the well-known and beloved voice of all things tech at all times, just to call out that in the physical activity and other school-based activities section on page 32, teachers will be encouraged to incorporate physical movement into classroom activities using methods like brain breaks and active learning techniques. Just to distinguish that some of the research about tech-mediated brain breaks, essentially like watching video games and moving along, or watching videos and moving along a la a video game with them, is not necessarily that great for kids' brains. So as whoever's in charge of this document over time in that committee, just to call out those 3 areas: nutrition, recess, and brain breaks in class being non-digital. Those would be 3 things for the future, maybe to look at to make sure this policy is implemented as well as it's intended to be designed.
Noted.
Very comprehensive. It's very comprehensive. A lot of hard work. Thank you. Good input. I like to make a motion to move to approve this. I think as it is tonight, it's satisfactory.
Hey, Peter, let me just make one comment too, just backing up what Chad said. And I'm gonna focus here on a little bit more on the nutrition. To the extent that we're trying to obviously promote that in the schools. Look, I mean, when I take a look at sort of what the kids are getting in terms of breakfast for lunch and French toast sticks and waffles and breadsticks, et cetera, et cetera. Look, I know there's a policy and all, we can further discuss, but, I would love to see the options sort of, in the lunch, in terms of the lunch program. I love to see those, a little bit more in the spirit of what we're trying to promote here in the wellness program. And so maybe we could work on that sort of over time here. But, just some of these things, I think, look, I've been hearing from parents, I've seen it with my own kids as well. And I think we can actually make some strides here on the lunch program if we're really serious about promoting, let's say, wellness and nutrition for the students in the school.
Yeah, and that is a conversation. Laura was actually on our wellness committee, especially at the K-5 level, really leaning on some of the support from our director of food services as well as our nursing supervisor. It was an ongoing conversation and topic, and this policy will help support that conversation and look for avenues to ensure that we are meeting the guidelines based on what we expect in the policy.
Perfect.
Reinforcing Michael's point, the thing I'd heard about a lot was snacks. So not just the lunch program and breakfast, but also the snacks. And to be clear, like, this is not a Weston problem. The U.S. food system, you walk in any grocery store, we're like swimming in ultra processed foods, but there's no reason that Weston, Connecticut couldn't be a leader in that and giving our kids nutritional food all day long. So I agree, Michael.
Gene, I'll just quickly actually echo Michael and Chad's comments. My kids, especially my WISC kids, also say the time allotted to get food and sit down, I saw in the policy the minimum of 20 minutes. Both of my kids had said that the lines are very long, the service is very slow, and they feel rushed and they're not able to eat. So if we're promoting this, again, I understand this is policy, but I think there are some valid concerns at the K-5 level about time to eat and potentially what's being served.
Well, David, I think you make a good point. All do. This would be an implementation discussion, and I'm not quite sure if this is under we have food service and contracts coming up, or we have the ability to intervene mid-year. But I mean, we should certainly address all these. I think they're all valid points. So you're right, it's a policy, but really the heart of it is implementation. So these are all good inputs. And I think it behooves us maybe in the next month or 2 months board meetings, we should address this. We should see if we can.
Just to clarify, we have 30-minute lunches, not 20. So
yeah, minimum of 20. So that's good. Thank you, Laura. And I think just to add on to that too, that's why we want to continue with this advisory committee for wellness. And I've written down all these comments, and I think our director of food services, our principals, when they're looking at scheduling, and even how do we gather additional feedback from students to help us, as Peter said, with the implementation so that we can really maximize the nutrition services and the time that students have for recess and movement and the quality of food too. Agreed.
So I'm going to make a motion with that caveat that these things will be addressed as implementation in the future. So I move that the Weston Board of Education, in accordance with bylaw 9311, waive the requirement for a second review and approve 5141.25 student wellness following its first review as presented. Have a second?
Great, thank you, Peter. Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who was the second on the motion.
Jody, I am. Lisa.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks. I
Lisa,
thought
raise
it
your
was
hand.
off. Thank you.
Yeah, her microphone's off.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6B, a discussion of the Weston 2026-2027 public school calendar.
Yes, so in your packet, there is a proposed 2026-2027 calendar, taking into account the input of various unions and stakeholder groups. This was the preferred calendar for 2026-27. And so tonight I ask the board's consideration in approving the calendar so that we can publicly circulate it.
I have one question. You'll get to know I'm the February break champion. Why are we doing PD on the 5th rather than the 12th?
You're talking about the early dismissal day?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was input from Julie, we were in that meeting. That was input from the teachers union relative to that day. And I think it was because it was backed up to something happening in the high school. Can you help me recall that?
I don't recall the piece about something happening in the high school. I think generally the teachers group prefers, David, I know that this is not always your preference. The teachers group prefers when PD is not attached to the break, because the feeling is on a lot of teachers' part that that day before the break is not always the most conducive to new learning. In particular, when we're looking at you're learning something new and then you have
Yes.
a week where you are not there, not able to confer with your colleagues and apply that learning and those sorts of things. So there, that came out of the teachers group in particular, a feeling that if we can not back PD up to a vacation, that might make those sessions more impactful for teachers.
Okay.
And then just, Erica, just
Thank you, Julie.
for the
Yeah.
community's sake, when do we determine the graduation date?
So there's a state regulation that the board can choose the graduation date whenever you deem appropriate. Generally speaking, I think historically the district has done it sometime in March or April after we're through the snow season and determining that date. Some districts have already set their graduation dates. Some districts wait until the spring after we've gone through some of the winter months that may extend the school year in June.
Okay.
One other question I'll flag, and this is actually not a question, but just kind of an FYI. Megan's been a really important voice on this the last couple of years, but I know that it's been a real effort to reduce tardyism and absenteeism and that sort of thing. And just flagging that I know this is a crazy jigsaw to always try to coordinate these things, but at the starting point of the year, beginning on a Thursday, Friday, what tends to happen in Weston a fair bit is you get parents rolling. If there's like one day before on a long break, they tend to all of a sudden roll in and start their kids, on that following Monday or whatever. I doubt that will happen in the beginning of school, but just flagging whenever we can move the calendar around and not have this kind of hanging starts and stops, it tends to help on the absenteeism front. But I think you guys probably see that much more up closely than I do.
Thank you, Chad.
I had one more just clarification question. For the PD days that don't have the line through them, are those, is that a day with no students?
That's correct. Those are full professional learning days for faculty and staff.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 academic calendar?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the 2026-2027 calendar as presented.
Second?
I second.
Thanks, Lisa. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next is the North House HVAC project.
I have one of the individuals from the project on the webinar right now. Eleanor, I don't know if you can hear me. I keep promoting you to a panelist and you keep declining. I don't know if that's because you don't want to join the meeting. And then there's, I believe, one other individual, and he's trying to access from his phone, and I don't know if he's having any luck getting in.
Jody, maybe we can call him or her and help them get on.
He's got the links. He's getting in, and he was trying to access simultaneously, which won't work. I was on the phone with him right now. I put him on hold for a moment while we went forward here. So, Adam, I believe you are logged into this meeting. ADZIEM Are you one of the consultants?
He's on mute.
Adam, if you can take yourself off mute. Mike, this is one of the ones that you were telling me, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Jody.
Yeah. Yes, by PC, but I need access by my phone. Dan, can they access both at the same time?
Well, when they first connect to the meeting, it can say like, what do they want to join audio by phone? Or
Right.
they can try to join twice, and it may show up twice. We've actually had that happen before. So
Yeah.
you can stay on his
I'm
computer.
not seeing, yeah, I'm not seeing them as other panelists. I'm going to try and promote Eleanor again. I see her down here twice now. Let's see if I can get her in. Okay, I think Eleanor is going to be joining right now.
Jody, she's on mute and has no video.
Yeah, that could be her connection by the phone. Eleanor, can you hear us?
Give her just a second because her video just turned on. So give her just a minute. She just connected.
I'm going to mute myself for just a
While everyone is trying to connect, just to move this meeting along, maybe we start by Mike just kind of give us a quick overview as to where we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have Landmark Facilities Group here tonight to discuss North House HVAC. After the RP was issued, this was the group that we decided with our Finance Operations and Facilities Committee to move forward with. They came through in the spring and summer, many site visits to deep dive into the North House, every single room, every closet, mechanical room, basement, ceiling, you name it. So they have a very good understanding of our building. They have our mechanical drawings. They have our structural drawings. They have everything that they needed to give us HVAC options. If you're not aware, the North House of the elementary school has a menagerie of heating systems. We're trying to unify and come up with at least maybe one or two. I know we have about 24 or so classrooms, a gymnasium. So their task by our leadership was to give us HVAC options, their recommendations, costs, and project timelines to like for like to what we have in the system in place now, which is unit ventilators and some other items. And also North House at this point strictly has no AC other than the gym. It has a roughly 60s unit, which is struggling. So Jody just texted me that they're in. So I guess without further ado, let's let Landmark Facilities Group take us through what they've come up with HVAC options, recommendations, costs, and project timelines.
Well, unfortunately, Eleanor cannot get yet on our meeting, so I tried to be provider here. So, yeah, we created 4 different options for HVAC application for north wing of the school. And should I explain what each option it's included? Right?
If you want to hit on it quickly, I mean, you can go over the options that you came up with, hit the high points.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, for the option 1, we want to provide the kind of reuse existing most of the openings and some of the units. So we would like to introduce the VRF system and convert this unit ventilators, most likely with a new VRF unit ventilators. VRF is a variable refrigerant flow units. It means that they're going to provide you heating, cooling as well, but at the same time remaining the existing hot water baseboards for the as a perimeter heat. Additionally, we would like to provide a rooftop DOAS, which is a fresh air unit. That's one basically option. Try to reuse the existing opening through the walls, etc. So option 2 is basically kind of totally new concept to provide the main RTU or a few RTUs to provide the first and second floor by feed by the central unit located on the roof, and that's going to be pretty much gas heating operation as a heat for the heating, but additionally the whole wing to provide the cooling. But unfortunately, that needs much more space to run the ductwork from that from the roof to each space, and of course we have to provide as a zone, so like a VAV boxes. The option 3 is all VRF. That's what we strongly recommend to provide wall-mounted unit. Then you all classrooms get the central, zone cooling for individually for each classrooms, and provide a fresh air system from the roof. And option 4, which is like a second from our recommendation, is a combination of option 2 and 3, meaning on the second floor we want to do kind of apply option 2, and for the first floor option 3. So all options got some pros and cons, and we include in our report that things, and hopefully if you have any questions, I would like to respond it. And I'm sorry, I forgot about mention about the gym. What you have, you have a split system there, which Mike you already mentioned before, and we would like to revise and upgrade that system, as well as a ductwork insulation, because it looks like kind of a lot of condensation you can observe there. And for that gym itself, we can create like 3 different options for outdoor units. It could be conventional compressor, inverter compressor, which is kind of modulate compressor, or the heat pump inverter compressor. So that's the 3 options. Talking about the numbers, I'm not sure, do we have Alona here? So maybe she can be able to help us with that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can?
Yes,
Yes,
Alona?
Eleanor, loud and clear.
Yes. Okay, that's great. Finally, yeah. The fourth, the recommended option was a combination of options 2 and 3. It has the ability to use a very efficient method using the VRF heat pump system on the first floor, and RTUs for system with VAV boxes on the second floor. So we have the advantages of both systems, and we're applying it to the proper floor, because an RTU on the roof serving the second floor minimizes the amount of ductwork going through the building. And meanwhile, using the first floor with the VRF system, we're using a very efficient system that can heat and cool.
So just quickly jumping in here, because I cut over to page, I guess, 32 in the document. Did you just say that you're recommending option 4? Because I think in the document here, it looks like we're recommending most recommending option 3.
Yeah, the most recommending option 3 as a second recommendations, option 4. So
Right,
maybe
right.
yeah.
We would love to have 3 for the entire building, but it's a more costly system, and if the budgets don't allow that.
Right.
For us, maybe as a group, just for us as a group and for the public as well, what is the main difference there? Just what are we getting for the 33% extra cost going from option 4 to, let's say, option 3? And then can you also just compare timelines for those as well? So again, 2 questions. Number 1, what are we getting in option 3 for the added cost versus option 4? And then how do you think about the timeline to completion for option 3 versus 4?
Okay, Adam, can you go through the advantages?
Yes, I didn't have that question. I mean, the question about the numbers. Why? I mean, we recommend the probably the best system from efficiency standpoint, from operation, and like totally independent about the zonings. The option 4, it's less expensive because we just going back to the between option 2 and 3 kind of easier way, because we have a roof above the second floor. That's easier to do VAV, our rooftop unit with VAV boxes on the second floor. Going to the first floor and do the same thing what is on the second floor, that's require more space. And this is something what we didn't say here, but of course the central rooftop unit required some space to run the ductwork from the roof down to whatever space is, and we don't see that space. I mean, we can find it. I mean, we know that we have a shaft, outdoor shaft, located on the, I believe, east side of the building, but that we worry that that's not going to be enough space, and kind of like a just. Let's put it this way: VRF system is a little easier to do. It's a little bit more expensive, but easier to do because we have to provide just a refrigeration piping instead of dealing of all ductwork. We show the mechanical point, but also behind that it's also electrical also, but structural and some architectural costs involved. So that's why we're thinking from the mechanical standpoint, number 3, but this number 3 gonna cost you from structural and architectural less, and I cannot precise how much less, but you will have a better system as an option 3.
Adam, at the beginning of your comments, did you mention, and I may have misheard, but did you mention that option 3 will give you more or a greater number of independent zones? Is that correct, versus option 4?
Okay. So let me put it in this way: that when we have a let's say as an example, option number 2, we have a common plant for all space, providing the heating, because that's because the heating is required in this moment, and some of the zones calling for cooling, and unfortunately cannot generate that cooling that moment. The VRF system number 3 give us totally independent modes. One room can call for heating, one room for cool. That's why we're thinking that's the best application for most buildings like schools.
So it provides the most optionality / flexibility between classrooms, between floors, etc. And I know that Miss Cadis and her teachers and her students have been dealing with this for quite a while, and so I would love to do it, quote unquote, the right way. If we can all find it, in the budget here to go ahead and, again, we're talking about $300,000 difference. And let me ask this, just last question, and I'll kick it off to everyone else. On the timeline, Can you talk about what the timeline difference is between option 3 versus option 4? Is there a significant difference there or not?
No, it will be similar. The installation timeline is going to be similar.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could just add really quick, option 3, and this wasn't on our recommendation or any guidance from us to Landmark. This is exactly what we have in E-Wing of the high school. When that was renovated in 2000, don't hold me on the year, 16-ish. It's got a dedicated outdoor air system, which is what the DOAS is. It's on the roof. It's gas fired. It has makeup heat. It has cooling. And it has the VRF system. It has the split system air conditioning in each room. So it's a system that's been around for a while. It's obviously is now much more efficient. Now it can be run with heat to almost negative 20 or so degrees, which is not what we had in 2016 for the E-Wing. What this doesn't include any of the prices, even with the structural or architectural down below. If we did any kind of rooftop, all drop ceilings have to move. So that really increases cost. There's just no room for ductwork. There's only about 8 inches above the drop ceiling till you get to the
right
to get to the roof.
And
So,
Mike, 2 questions for you. So on the drop ceilings, which options would that impact? And maybe that's a question maybe for Adam. I don't know if you know that, Mike. And then my second question for you, Mike, specifically is when you look at the options here, of course, you're much more well-versed in this than I am. What would be your recommendation? Do you believe, let's say, option 3 versus option 4 is, option 3 warrants the greater cost versus option 4? So I guess.
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing with any kind of rooftop, anything that's going to have ductwork, the drop ceilings are going to have to move. So if we put a rooftop on the second floor and did VRF on the first floor, we still have to drop all the ceilings on the second floor to accommodate the ductwork, which is intrusive. And one of the biggest things I wanted to do with the North House was unify our systems. So I really wouldn't like to see, on a maintenance standpoint and kind of on just energy management standpoint, to have now we'd have 3 different systems in there because the gym would have to be different, classrooms would be different, second floor would be different if it was a rooftop. So for me, I like the idea of the full line 3, which is full VRF. Everything's controlled. This really will lower our carbon footprint because we won't have to run the boiler so much. We'll use a little bit more electricity. No more oil, no more gas. It's all almost negative 20 degrees, and we would have baseboard heat that would be connected when the unit ventilators are removed to just add for a secondary source of heat if needed.
And that unified system, Mike, it sounds like that would increase efficiency or save us in some way, either in efficiency or maintenance costs sort of over time because of this unified, let's call it, system. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay, so even though this would cost, let's call it, versus option 4, another $300,000, you would expect that. And I don't know what the savings are per year. I'm just trying to figure out, like, yes, it may cost $300,000 more, but you may actually make that back over, I don't know, so many number of years. And it would be a more efficient system and just
Right.
better for us to handle.
That's right.
Okay.
Can I touch on the cost perspective for a minute? Because I think on the surface we should be smart. Well, we should be smart about it, right? And option 3 seems like the logical way to go. But can you just explain, when I look at option 3, under additional costs, you have A, B, C, D, E. So is the 1.2 million that's before the additional costs?
That is before.
That's before. So when I look at this, and correct me if I'm wrong, the 1.2 million really, if the additional costs are A, B, C, D, E, and I didn't have a chance to do an average, but if I went even with the low for A, B, C, D, E, I came up with another over $400,000 in costs. So when I look at option 3 versus option 4, I feel like I'm looking at 1.7 million versus 915,000. Am I, and that's best case scenario looking at the low cost. Am I right when I look at those things?
Adam, should we have had additional costs listed for option 4 as well? I mean, they all require some degree of electrical or architectural and structural work.
Yeah, correct. The only thing is for option 3, most likely we're looking for, I mean, let's put it even from structural point, what I could say. We're looking for some good support for the roof, for a larger RTU for a second floor instead of small DOAS for both floors. From architectural standpoint, that's exactly what Mike mentioned. I mean, I looking for some additional numbers. We're looking on the mechanical. That's what we can generate. And from electrical standpoint, I guess it's going to be similar, right? Or
yeah, well, actually, you know, I just received the numbers for the billing history, which I looked through. It was after the report was issued. I can safely say we can eliminate the electrical service upgrade. We have a 1200 amp service at 480 volt there now. I checked, and we are drawing at a very peak demand of 300 amps on that. What we would have to upgrade is the feeders from the main house to the north house, but we don't have to upgrade the entire service for the building. So we can eliminate that number.
Okay. So, I think the delta then, even if you eliminate E, the delta at low adds, even with the elimination of E, $461,000. Your high looks like you just took the low and doubled it. So if I took that and just said 1.5 times, just a round number, we're looking at almost at that point $2 million for option 3. What for option 4, you don't have any additional costs listed. Is that an error, or are we, because now the delta is $1 million between option 3 and option 4?
oh, it's missing.
Yeah, it's missing. Because it's a combination of 2 and 3. It's the same letters, A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know what you're talking about. Right now, I see it. Yeah, on the spreadsheet, it's missing line. Yes, it's the same thing. A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay, so option 3 and option 4 both have the same additional costs.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the level of the cost is going to be different for each of them, but slightly, but it will be.
But you're talking about a $300,000 plus or minus, and to David's point, it may be a little bit more, right? But given that the same additional costs are being associated, I guess the delta maybe, it doesn't necessarily blow out, David, right? To your point, because those letters were not listed. The overall cost of this is greater than the 1.2 or the 900. One other question, guys, on this. In option 4, are we doing both this $915,000 plus the gym line? So the actual cost there is 1.1 before taking into account the additional costs?
Yeah. That 206,000 for the gym will apply to any of those options, because that's the approach we're taking for the gym, regardless.
Okay. So that's not part of option 4. That's just additive to any other option.
Right.
Okay. So to the current options, just so I can understand this then, and thanks for bringing this up, David. Options 1, 2, 3, and 4 would be increased by the cost of that gym line, about approximately $200,000. And then options 1, 2, 3, and 4, it looks like we'll at least have A, C, D, and E. Options 2, 3, and 4 will include also B, although the rate, although the total cost of each one of those, letters, the additional cost, it may be different within that range that you've proposed to us below.
Right. Without going into full design, we can't say for sure what the architectural costs are going to be. So we took a rule of thumb percentage of construction costs and applied that to the architect.
Yeah, if I can say something as a good example, option number 2, we know it's going to affect by structural a lot, right, Alona? Because we're talking about the big, or either 2 big rooftop units with pretty heavy units. Right. So we don't know where to locate them yet, unless the structural feedback we're gonna get from. But I don't want to shoot some numbers, but like I could say maybe even 100,000 to the structural.
All right, so this might be a question for Phil. Is this the somewhat lively conversation we had around budgeting time and where we were going to put half the money and if we should take the expense from last year? Is this the project that we were?
It is. It is a
Okay.
project.
And if I remember correctly, at the time we budgeted about 1.5, 1.6 million for the cost of this project, right?
I think we had an all-in cost of about 1.8.
1 point. Okay. So
Again,
yeah.
I'm sorry, David, real quick.
Okay.
So what we're looking at with option 3, it really encompasses this is the most efficient system that we can put in.
Right.
With option 4, while it's coming in at a lower cost, what we have to take into consideration is whether or not it's going to be feasible to do option 4, because as Mike and the team mentioned, the ceiling height probably will not accommodate the ductwork that's needed. What we tasked Landmark to do was to explore all the options and give us, in their opinion, what will be best for us.
Yeah, and just doing some quick math, knowing that A, B, C, D, E would apply to option 4 as well. We're back to what Mike sort of said earlier, which is the delta is around $320,000 between option 3 and option 4. And for $320,000, to me, it doesn't make any sense not to go with option 3, which is recommended. My other question was, from a budgeting perspective, we have 1.8 million, so to speak, for this. If my math is correct, if we do option 3 and we take all A, B, C, D, E off, A, B, C, D, and we took it rather than at the low or the high, but the median, 1.5 times the price of low, and then we added the $206,000 for the gym, we're at about just over 2.1 million, which again, $300,000 difference from the 1.8 million that was budgeted. To me, it's a no-brainer to do the recommended option 3. I just want to make sure, like anything else, the numbers are right? Because it's really easy to spend other people's money. But am I right? So we have about 1.8 million budgeted for this project.
We don't.
Oh.
So as you recall, there was a rather lively discussion regarding this project. So where we left off was the uncertainty about the design and what the ultimate cost will be. So the Board of Finance gave us money to do this aspect, to do the design and to do the legwork. And then we would go back to the Board of Finance and say, this is the cost. And then we'll work out what the funding will be. So we do not have a 1.8 allocated because there is some uncertainty regarding what the total cost of the project will be. So what the plan is, if approved tonight, we will go before the Board of Finance in November to request these funds. And hopefully will be approved in November, and then we can start the other phases that will be needed to ensure a timeline that we can have it completed for the start of the new year.
And as far as
I'm sorry, David, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just quickly say, as far as I remember what we voted for as a board, right? We did vote to encumber the funds, and so the Board of Finance undid that, so to speak, right? So what happened? Okay, so what happens? And this, I guess, might be a question for you, Phil, and potentially you, Steve. So now that we know the costs, are they going to tell us in so many, I understand it's one budget for the town, so to speak, right? One taxpayer, but is this going to be a special appropriation? Is this going to be just money coming back from the Board of Finance? Or are they going to ask us come this January, February, March, when we're looking at our budget to figure it out from our budget?
Go ahead, Phil.
I think it is to be determined. I do not believe the last conversation was that it was not going to come from our budget. The Board of Finance would find some ways of funding this project. I do believe that we did have the commitment from the Board of Finance to move this project forward. I think what they wanted to find to better understand was the timeline and also what the ultimate cost would be.
But if it's unless they've already encumbered the money, then it'll be a special appropriation.
Okay, yeah, my only concern was that they're going to going to pit us against ourselves potentially come January, February, March when we're working on our own budget. And so we should have a reasonable expectation that this money, at least what we asked for, we voted on last year, should come back to us without being told you need to find an offset in your own budget. So, yeah, I think if that's true, we're talking about potentially a $300,000 delta between what we estimated a year ago and what the project would be. And that, in the grand scheme of things, is not something that we should consider any other option. I think that we should just go with option 3. Sorry, Michael. I know I kind of jumped in on you.
No, that's perfect. I mean, my only follow-up question for you, Phil, is if we went ahead and we moved this forward tonight, and we move the project, what is the anticipated completion date of this? Is this going to be like is this going to be over the summer of 2027? Is that what we're thinking, or is this 26?
26, summer of 26.
Okay, great. Okay.
So I would imagine that the Board of Finance, now that we're going to come to them with a plan, is going to ask the longevity of this new system, and should we do any type of improvements on North House? Will this be continue? I mean, or are we going to have to tear it out and start all over again?
If you're thinking primarily from the HVAC perspective, Steve, I don't believe we'll need to tear anything out.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest concerns that we do have with the North House has to do with the IAQ, right? In terms of their indoor air quality, I think that this will address it. In terms of what our immediate focus is, to address that. I do not believe, and I could be wrong, that there was any alternative plan to doing anything with the North House. So that's where the entire conversation lies.
Okay, well, you're going to have to clarify that to them. Peter, do you have any thoughts here? You're the HVAC expert on the board.
Yeah, I had all my notes. I did my walk around on Sunday. I think David and Michael asked really good questions. I look at this from an IMO perspective, and I think that's where Michael came from also. In installation, maintenance, and operation. I like electricity. I like the flexibility of zone heating. I like the lack of dependence on roof mechanics. The only question I had was, and Phil just asked about it, IAQ, we're going to have some sensors, and will we have any pathogen control beyond outdoor air source here? Because if we're going to make an investment in these classrooms for the young learners, can we sort of cut down on maybe some virus that's floating around? And I think actually the option 3 allows you to do the most pathogen control, because you can plug into some electricity and put some ultraviolet lamps in and stuff. But then maybe that's a question for Adam later. If we want to add some pathogen control, I think option 3 probably gives us the best flexibility to do that.
So just one other question. What's the longevity of each option and which, eventually it's going to be needed to be fixed, which is the easiest and quickest option to fix?
Well, depends what. Okay, so let's put it this way. The longest, I think we stated in the report, try to find out what it is. Like option 3, its expected life is like a 15 to 20 years. We didn't say option 4 because it's really combination of both. But the option 2 just give us around 15 to 20 years. So is similar if we're talking about those two options.
Yeah.
You know, we do have also option number 2 and option number 1. So for example, option number 2, I believe it's a little longer. No, it's also 15, 20 years. So we are in the same range of lifetime of the equipment.
Adam, just a pointer real quick. So as you're seeing right now, what we're looking at in terms of life of equipment, it's the equipment these days are not built the way they were in the past. So if you think of the middle school, for example, which has all original equipment, all the life that we have on all these current units, options 1 through 4, you have an average life of 15 years. And that is nothing compared to what we currently have in the middle school, which is from the 1950s and so forth.
Wow.
So again, Lisa, to your point, these will be brand new units. We do not anticipate that in the near term, in the short term, that we'll need to do any significant repairs to these units. And one of the plus to having option 3 is that these are individual units and they can be serviced individually, similar to what we currently have, for example, in the East House or the South House. We do have units that fail from time to time, and we can address those individual units and not have to focus on the entire unit for the entire space.
Right.
Thanks, that's very helpful.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to add anything to that.
What's the warranty on these? Is there a warranty on the equipment for what period of time?
Correct, but well, I cannot tell you what is the warranty. Usually, it's like around 10 years for a compressors. This is the major, I think, piece of equipment if we're talking about VRF. I forgot to mention before. Maybe it's going to be light up a little bit. The VRF, it's like a when we're talking about like a totally electrical equipment in the future, electrification right now is very kind of common way to go, and that's a way to go with option 3. You're gonna get you can have totally independent electrical heating equipment if you wish. The option 4 and any other options involved with a gas equipment. And natural gas, of course, it's right now it's pretty not that expensive and it's good for operation, but we know from years before it really depends. I mean, electrical, the same thing, but you still have a gas boilers operating as a supplemental heat. So in case if something happened with the boilers, you can produce the heat using VRF system.
Now, my question is, what's the warranty?
It's around 10 years.
So half to 2/3 the life of the overall project.
Well, I'm sorry. It's well, hold on a second. Warranty of that equipment, it's really depends of the parts. I mentioned 10 years. 10 years is I believe it's a 10 years. It's a compressor warranty. The parts might be 5. I'm not quite sure right now. I cannot answer your question yet.
Steve, to me, it's a little bit like the powertrain on a car, right? The car manufacturers give you a 100,000 mile powertrain warranty, but a 3 or 36,000 mile warranty and everything else because the powertrain
Right.
likely, right? So, but what this does do, this informs us as a board in the town that they have to start reserving now for a replacement in 15 to 20 years, right? So the interesting double-edged sword is if we move forward with option 3, we now have also, we know in 20 years, 15 to 20 years, we're going to incur that expense again.
Yeah, except the building will be close to 100 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, but you're right. But also, you cannot control everything. As an example, EPA changed the within. Well, I mean, we currently right now just switching from one refrigerant to another refrigerant, and we know already within 5 years we're going to do the same thing. So, like, most likely when you have to replace, let's say, compressor. Maybe not compressor, the unit within after 5-6 years from now, you probably have to replace the whole piping, etc. Just to let you know.
No, I'm not. Mine was just a question. You don't have to. We're not having to justify it. I guess, unless there are more questions, do we believe this is at a point where we feel comfortable having Phil go before the Board of Finance for the recommendation?
I'm ready to do the motion if you're ready.
I'm ready.
I want to add some, Steve, I want to add some context. Yes, to your question, I want to add some context specifically for the Board of Finance on this point. I looked through all the information. Thank you for compiling a very comprehensive document. There's 2 points on page 55 that are the core of this entire discussion. Point 6 on page 55 is, in general, the systems do not provide adequate outside air to keep the students healthy and alert. Point 7 is the lack of air conditioning in the classrooms coupled with inadequate ventilation leads to conditions that are at best not conducive to learning and can have serious health consequences for students with respiratory issues. And you have a board of ed that all is in agreement. We should go with the build it once, build it right, number 3 option. And crucial in this conversation is a point that just got brought up, which is if this happens in November or December, it's ready in September of 2026. If we play more ping pong and get into the whole thing that we get criticized for a lot of kicking the can down the road, that pushes things out further. So Board of Finance, that's one of the advantages of having these things recorded. Let's move this project along. You have a Board of Ed that wants to do it. The kids need it. It's not healthy. So let's do this.
All right.
Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
Go for it, David.
All right. Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the North House HVAC project as recommended by Landmark Facilities Group, option 3, and the gym split unit.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Adam. Thanks,
Thank you.
Eleanor.
4 minutes.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Move
Thanks,
on to
Thank you.
the district
Have a good night.
improvement plan. Erica?
Yes, thank you, Steve, and thank you for the time and space on the meeting agenda this evening. I am pleased to be part of the district leadership team in presenting the 2025-26 district improvement plan and sharing a little bit about our strategic approach in advancing the district's work through this current school year. This plan that you're about to hear a little more about this evening is a reflection of how to prepare our students to think critically, collaborate effectively, communicate clearly, create imaginatively, and act as responsible citizens, which are all the essential portrait of the graduate competencies that define success in a changing world and also a very quickly evolving educational landscape. The plan builds on the strong foundation set last year. It aligns to teaching and learning and leadership practices with some data-informed decision-making, but it keeps student well-being, the safety, security, technology, and operational future readiness at the forefront of all of the actions. As you'll see throughout the evening, each goal connects directly to a larger vision of excellence, belonging, and purposeful innovation. In math, we're helping students to see themselves as capable problem solvers through student-centered and hands-on learning. In literacy, we're nurturing readers and writers who can think deeply and communicate clearly across all disciplines. In science, we're expanding inquiry-based learning that fuels curiosity, creativity, innovation, and critical thinking. In culture and climate, we're really deepening belonging and ensuring that every voice, students, families, and staff, is heard and also valued. And information literacy and technology, we're preparing students to navigate a digital world responsibly and creatively, including the thoughtful use of AI. In safety and security, we're continuing to build systems and partnerships that keep every member of our community safe, both physically and emotionally. And in future facilities planning, we're working to design modern, safe learning environments that support the needs of our students and educators for decades to come. So each of these areas that I just spoke about represent more than just a goal. It's really a commitment to the belief that every single student can achieve at high levels and thrive when learning is rigorous, engaging, inclusive, and our facilities are safe and welcoming to do so. The team this evening is not going to go through every single goal, every single target, and every single action and outcome listed in each section of this plan, but rather spotlight several actions and outcomes that capture the essence and heart of the improvement efforts in their particular area. So as you listen to each of the district leaders present this evening, I invite you to think about a few guiding ideas and principles. First is alignment, like how does this work connect across schools and departments? The second is impact. How will these efforts shape the daily experiences of our students and staff? And the third is collaboration. How do we as leaders in an educational community model the very competencies we seek to instill in our students? So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Tina, who's going to start with some teaching and learning.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Forty. I am also want to reiterate some of the appreciation around the work that we as a team put into this district improvement plan. What you may not see is that we start this work right in June of the previous year. So when you receive your end of year kind of update around our school, our district and school improvement plan, we already start thinking ahead around next year's work. And we continue on with multiple iterations and reflective questions and as a team, both at the school level with our teachers and with our leaders, and then also across the different departments at the district level. So I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to all the leaders and all of the teachers that might be listening right now, because we take this work very seriously, and we know that this drives our work into the school year and in some cases over multiple years. So before we go into the specific domain around mathematics, I just want to remind everyone on how we decide and determine our goals and our improvement efforts every year. You can see that when we look at the individual targets for achievement and for growth across all of the different domains, we use multiple data sources when we are evaluating our growth measures and our achievement measures. We take into consideration our standardized assessment tools, which are assessments like Smarter Balanced, SAT, and GSS. And we also look at formative assessment tools, which in Weston, we use tools such as DIBELS 8 in literacy, NWA in math and literacy. And this year, we've got some data from our panorama surveys too that are helping drive the work. And so when we look at determining the metrics around these goals, I just want to remind everyone that we look at a variety of different information. We look at the numerical targets of the current school year students. So you'll see we've referenced in parentheses some fall achievement data of the current students that are in front of us. And we also look at previous year achievement and growth as well. So all of that taken into consideration when we think about an achievable target that we feel we can meet at the end of the year. over time. So first we start with math, and this really builds, as Erica said, on our work that we've been really focusing on over the last couple of years, which is to transform our mathematics classrooms so that students see themselves as capable mathematicians, and they engage in the work as if they were mathematicians in the field. And so over the past couple of years, you are aware that we've been updating our curriculum across all the content areas. This is the first year that we'll have illustrative math, which is a problem-based curriculum in grades 1 through 8th grade. We also are still infusing building thinking classrooms across the different classrooms, which allows students to work collaboratively, get up out of their seats and work on vertical spaces, where they're problem solving and communicating through the different curriculum-based tasks throughout the units of study. We're also going to be still working to enhance our multi-tiered system of support, and that's through data analysis, through our data teams, through collaborative planning, and through coaching cycles with support of our CILs. We know and we can see that how this work connects to our portrait of the graduate when we focus on critical thinking and cultivating those environments where students have to problem solve and think in multiple ways when they're solving problems. They have to persevere through problems. And then as I mentioned before, that we're really focusing on more collaborative environments and a problem solving environment, problem-based environment where students have to transfer their skills and make connections beyond the classroom walls. So those are some of the high leverage action steps that are grounded in our data points and some of our work throughout the year. You can see that a lot of our work in every area is really grounded in the evidence indicators. So we're looking at ways to kind of gather some observational components of our work throughout the year, and get into classrooms to see some sample student work components to see if that thinking critically and that problem solving and persevering is really coming to life. So as we transition to literacy, you will see that our overarching literacy goal for students is how do we help our students become proficient readers, writers, and thinkers, and how do we help support them communicate clearly across disciplines? We know that when we look at our literacy goals, that while these may be isolated on paper, we know that literacy goals transcend across all content areas, and we want to infuse those literacy practices in all content areas. The research shows that it helps strengthen comprehension, vocabulary, and communication overall. This year, as you may be aware, we are really grounding a lot of our curriculum updates and support at the intermediate school in grades 3, 4, 5. This is their second year of adopting a new literacy program. So our CILs are still, our CIL is still supporting teachers around coaching cycles in that area. We are still using a lot of our curriculum-based measures and our universal screening data to help support differentiated instruction so that students have authentic texts that are at their developmental level, at their performance level, and also support some of their interests when it comes to reading, right? We want to make sure that across the district, we have authentic texts that are high interest. They're in different forms, such as poetry, informational text, narrative fiction, and even graphic novels. We know that those are high interest texts, and we want kids to love to read. And the more books and authentic resources that we get in front of them, we hope to inspire that love of reading across the grade levels. And then moving on to science. As Erica mentioned in the beginning, sorry, I'm toggling and scrolling as I speak. In science, our goal, again, is to ensure every student experiences hands-on inquiry-based learning in our science curriculum. This supports our next generation science standards and the idea of a phenomenon-based learning environment where students are exposed to maybe a phenomenon around them, such as could be something as simple as, why is the sunset red, right? And so that phenomenon, when they kick off a unit, it intrigues students, it piques some interest, and then teachers are able to connect the science concepts to that phenomenon so students can talk about it and they can engage in more deep science understanding and inquiry. We are still going to use our standardized assessment metric in science specifically because we currently do not have a formative assessment science tool across all grade levels, starting in kindergarten through 8th grade. We use NGSS for a standardized measure when we develop our goals. We have been using and growing in our use around a tool called Inner Orbit. That is a curriculum-based assessment tool that is connected to the next generation science assessment. So we're going to continue elevating and enhancing that tool to help us support our work at the curriculum level. And then finally, I would just mention that some of our work this year in science is to talk a little bit about visible thinking routines in the science classroom, infuse some more science talk practices to help elevate that conversation around innovation and science practices and see how the world works around us in the science area. This definitely builds the student curiosity, their creativity, and connects to some of those competencies that we want to ensure students are mastering before they graduate through the portrait of the graduate. So transitioning now, I just want to move on to some of the work that Julie and Tracy are going to talk a little bit more specifically. We know that the content areas, while we're focusing on deep student-centered learning and grounded in our data and our support with our CILs through instructional coaching and collaboration, academic priorities only thrive when students feel a strong sense of belonging in their schools. And so the next section, Julie and Tracy are going to talk and lead us through. So I'm going to hand the mic to them.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For District Culture and Climate, our goal is to foster an inclusive environment where all students, staff, and families are safe, welcomed, and supported through meaningful school-wide relationships. This year, we're implementing our Panorama survey one time in March in an effort to improve our participation rates. All of our performance targets, which are organized by students, families, and staff in this improvement plan, will be measured by outcomes on the March 2026 Panorama survey in comparison to the Spring 2025 survey administration. As you can see, the emphasis is on cultivating a sense of belonging for our students and the overall climate of our buildings as experienced by staff and families. Our action steps this year are centered around our major initiatives, including our continued work with school climate and restorative practices, our rollout of No Place for Hate at Weston Middle School, supporting and enhancing our work with district-wide social-emotional learning programming, and offering families opportunities to learn about programs and strategies to support their children at school and at home. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gavoni, who is going to speak in more detail about some additional action steps related to our faculty and staff in the area of culture and climate.
Thank you. So we really closely reviewed the Panorama survey data that came in last year, as was discussed, I believe, in the June meeting of the board. And there were two data points relating to staff that really stood out to us. Probably most notably the rate of participation of our staff in this survey. And it's really important to us in this desire to create a more positive working environment for staff members to truly understand what that environment looks and feels like for them. And we can only do that when we have greater participation, particularly from our non-teaching staff. So we've selected two action steps related to staff, really around the idea that we would like to ensure that all staff members are aware of and have access to a variety of channels for providing feedback to us, not just through the Panorama survey, but also through other avenues. Because we truly believe that when staff members have input and a voice in decision making, that supports a respectful and positive working environment, which has a direct benefit to the experience of our students. In tandem with that, we're committing to working to establish district processes to demonstrate how that staff feedback is reviewed and applied in leaders' decision making. We looked really carefully not only at the standardized data points, but also at the free responses from the survey, and saw over and over again that our staff members are really looking to understand how decisions are made at the highest levels and how their input is informing that decision making. So this wraps up really nicely with the points that Dr. Edwards was making related to our overall school culture and climate. And we really feel that the work that our staff members do and bring every day is so crucial to that process. So I am now turning this over to our Director of Digital Learning, Mr. DeVito.
Thank you very much. Good evening. As part of our district improvement plan, I'd like to highlight 2 initiatives that reflect our commitment to preparing students and staff for a world that is increasingly shaped by technology and artificial intelligence. Both items focus on digital literacy and AI literacy, ensuring that our learners are not just users of technology, but thoughtful, ethical, and creative participants in a digital society. The first initiative is a continuation of identifying and designing units of study aligned with the ISTE and AASL standards. We're weaving digital literacy and AI literacy directly into the curriculum the teachers are already using. Our goal is to help teachers and students strengthen their technical literacy, research skills, and understanding how technology, including AI, can be used responsibly and creatively. Our library media specialists bring deep expertise in information literacy and instructional design, ensuring that this integration is consistent, age-appropriate, and grounded in recognized national standards. Over time, this initiative will enhance both student learning and teacher capacity, helping our district ensure that every student develops the critical digital and AI skills needed to succeed in the world beyond Weston. The second initiative, it's a big one. It's about taking a proactive and responsible approach to generative AI, tools like Gemini and others that are transforming how we learn and work. We're developing a comprehensive district plan that brings all stakeholders together, teachers, administrators, and students, to build a shared understanding of what AI is, how it works, and how it can be used effectively in education. This plan will include professional development for staff, educational opportunities for students and families, and clear guidance for ethical and secure AI use. The goal is to not just use AI, but to understand it, its strengths, its limitations, and its impact on creativity, privacy, and learning. In doing so, Weston Public Schools will position itself as a leader in responsible and informed AI integration. We want our students to leave our schools not only knowing how to use AI, but how to question it, guide it, and use it ethically. Together, these 2 initiatives strengthen our mission to empower students to think critically, act responsibly, and thrive in a rapidly changing world. By embedding digital and AI literacy into our curriculum, and by developing a thoughtful plan for AI integration, we're ensuring Weston remains a forward-thinking, equitable, and aligned with the highest educational standards. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jim Wiltsey, who will discuss safety and security.
Good evening. Our goal is to maintain an environment where safety and security are foundational, ensuring every student and staff member can thrive both in the classroom and across the campus. School security in Weston is built upon a layered approach, one that combines trained personnel, advanced technology, and standardized procedures, all working together as a unified security ecosystem. This reflects my belief that true safety isn't achieved through any single measure, but through collaboration, consistency, and readiness across every level of the district. To that end, we're focusing on 3 key areas: training, building and campus safety, and emergency communication. Under training, this consists of conducting crisis response drills, partnering with Weston EMS for medical readiness training. Our security staff have also just completed a 3-day school security officer course hosted by NASRO, further strengthening our preparedness and professionalism. Under building and campus safety, improving physical security through new access controls, expanded camera coverage, and additional alertness notification beacons. Upcoming projects include installing door access alarms, adding a guardrail along School Road near Hurlbut, and working with Weston Police to enhance traffic safety. Emergency communication will be advancing our ability to communicate quickly and clearly through an upgraded radio infrastructure and updated software, and continued coordination with Weston Police, fire, and town leadership. Together, these initiatives reinforce our ongoing commitment to a safe, resilient, and well-prepared school community. I'll now toss it off to Phil and Erica.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. As it relates to future planning, we will continue our work of designing learning environments that are safe, modern, and aligns with needs of teaching and learning, the community, and that will carry Weston on for decades to come. This work is a joint effort. It involves all stakeholders, the Board of Education, the community, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Finance. To this end, we will have community focus group to gather feedback around future plans for our entire campus infrastructure. We will align those plans around our enrollment projection, which we will start in November. The immediate goal is a grant submission by June of 26. As a note, a grant submission is not a commitment, but instead it allows us to secure commitment from the state for our reimbursement. During this time, we will review the various options and present these options to all stakeholders for an ultimate referendum. With that, I will pass it back to Erica.
Thank you, Phil. First, I just want to thank all of our district leaders this evening for presenting. The work in this plan is representative of not only their expertise, their time, their energy, but really thoughtful and collaborative consideration of those tangible action steps in service of moving our district's priorities forward, along with explicit evidence indicators so that we know and can mark our progress or attainment of our articulated goals. What's shared in this plan not only reflects careful planning and prioritization, but our commitment and continued focus on excellence, something we want to practice every single day, not just a finish line or that we reach. The belonging, not as an isolated program, but more of a feeling we create in every single interaction in every space within our school communities. And innovation, which is not necessarily about change for the sake of change, but rather purposely improving how we teach, learn, and lead. This is more than a document. It is a guide and reflection of our collective purpose, which is to ensure every single Weston student is seen, supported, challenged to reach their fullest potential. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It's a lot, quite a bit. Kind of open the floor to the board members to ask questions or comments, or, this is a living document, so it's, it's goals and aspirations. And anybody want to?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Steve. Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Chad.
Yeah, most of mine are just comments and overwhelmingly positive. First of all, Tina, thank you so much and for calling it out as well. I know this is not because I asked for it, but I so brilliantly love that it's featured in the document. And Erica, please continue this even once I'm on the board and others are interested in these same things. Thank you for all the call outs of other ways to measure and evaluate if we're doing well as a district besides test scores. Yes, they're essential, but they're also the easiest and fastest things to look at, and they don't necessarily paint a full picture. So boy, did I appreciate sort of section by section how you're using multiple things to evaluate how we're doing. So thank you for that. Then Dan, in the section on tech AI specifically, I would suggest this for all of us, and particularly as this is like almost a week to week, month to month sort of moving target. I really appreciated the truncating it into two things. And I would suggest we be quite skeptical about the first and then very even not aggressive is not the right word, but very innovative and quick and nimble in the second. So the first part is like, let's integrate AI in the ways we can in the classroom to help equip our students. And the lesson there from iPads and digital and all the stuff of the last 20 years is like, be a little mindful on that one. But the second part about like recognizing how this is going to transform everything and equipping our students to be able to be part of that dialogue, I think we should absolutely be doing that. And so far from being a Luddite on that one, we do have to help them be skilled with this. And I'm going to steal a phrase that I've now quoted from Peter Gordon, like I don't even know how many times. But the goal with AI, I would argue, is the same as the goal with any tech, is that our kids should not be able to work tech, but they should understand how technology works. So the evaluation is not just can they use AI effectively? It should actually be, do they have a deep understanding of how it's changing a world and how it's working? And if we are slow and skeptical on the first, we're not going to make a bunch of adoptions of software that ultimately is just about driving, Microsoft bottom line. We help them on the second, then we're doing our job as educators. So thank you for splitting that into two very clear sort of missions there. And then Phil, yes, let's submit that grant. Yes. Thank you for putting that on there. Yes, let's do that because we have to change the kicking the can down the road mantra. And last, Erica, I appreciate also the call out about we're not going to just do change for the sake of change, but we are going to embrace change if it's about how we purposefully adjust or innovate for how we teach and we lead. So those are just some things that popped out to me. Really appreciate all of those things. And I don't have any specific questions, but I wanted to bring your attention to those things because they look very compelling, all of them. Thank you.
May I just add a plug since you brought it up? So, and since you're on the subcommittee meeting, Chad, you'll be front and center. The AI Advisory Committee will be doing an update during our curriculum subcommittee meeting in January. And as you can see, one of the common threads throughout the content area specific components of the document is around multi-tiered systems of support. And we are going to do our deep dive and overview of our K-12 MTSS system, practices, protocols in our November meeting. So we're trying to make sure that there's a through line and, aspects of what we do that to come to life in some of our subcommittee work too, because we know that we can't do it all in our Board of Ed meetings. And so that's where a lot of these topics we hope will live and we can go a little bit deeper. And if you didn't get a chance to look at the subcommittee meeting from October, Principal Bluestein, he provided an overview for No Place for Hate, which Dr. Edwards mentioned during the school climate portion of it, as well as the anonymous reporting system that Mr. DeVito mentioned as well. So hopefully we can start seeing and leverage some of our time in our curriculum subcommittee meeting that is connected to aspects of this work throughout the year. So if people want to dive a little deeper and understand a little bit more clearly what we do and how this document is a living and breathing document, that is where we hope that some of that conversation will evolve. So thank you for bringing it up.
Well, I'm going to put in another plug. I really appreciate the fact that you are implementing best practices, you're transforming your curriculum to best practices today. It's cognitively challenging and yet engaging for the students. So you're taking, I mean, I really appreciate the Committee on AI. It's about talking about what's working and implementing it into the curriculum and not waiting. You're being ahead of the game, and and it just sounds like you're going to implement it, look at it, change it, and get to best practices as a leader. And I really appreciate the illustrative mathematics, engaging it so students know why they're learning it. And the next generation science standards, so it's cognitively demanding. We're looking at the problem solving that the students are going to need later on in life. So I really appreciate the presentation and how thoughtful and visionary it is. Thank you.
Other,
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
yeah.
I don't have
other
anything to
questions?
add, but just to prove that I paid attention and I followed along. I just would simply say what I like about the dip is that it's a point, and Tina will know this about me, and the rest of you who have seen me on the board for a while. It's an opportunity for me in the spring to be reflective, and we talk about like accountability of the students, and parents should hold the administration, the board accountable as well. So I like these because it kind of sets expectations of what we should anticipate as the school year kind of unwinds. And then in the spring and I guess early summer-ish and fall, mostly fall, I suppose, really, if you kind of think about it, it's an opportunity to look back and see what we did well and reflect on changes that we can make. So I did follow along, I paid attention, but we'll talk more in the spring, fall, summer and fall.
Quick comment, quick question. Comment, Tina, I'm a sucker for these numbers, and I just want to say that looking through all of them, it looks like you've raised targets across the board with the exception of K-2 in math. So good to see and well done on that. I'm assuming that you're looking, and the way I'm looking at it is spring over spring, right? So looking at those numbers, I think across the board here, math, English, not only have you raised the targets, but you've raised the growth targets as well, which is quite ambitious, which I love to see. So I appreciate that. Am I looking at that correct, Tina? I know it's multifactorial and how you're coming up with, what the targets are and all, new curriculum, et cetera, but should we be looking at this spring over spring, I assume? And is that how you're looking at it and sort of using the baseline to gauge the spring versus the last? Is that how you're looking at it?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. I mentioned in the beginning, and we talk about this every year, that we look at spring to spring goals to look at achievement, but we know that that's a different cohort of students.
Correct.
So we're also very mindful of the current students that are in front of us. So we always look at our current fall baseline data too, when we're making that determination. So in some cases, you'll see that there is a typical 3% is what we usually look at from spring to spring, a 3% improvement across the grade bands. And in our growth area, we typically are a little bit more aggressive because we want to close that gap. And so typically we use a 4% improvement overall. I just want to mention that this is the district level improvement goals. And so at the school level, they're even more granular and they're even more specific to their students in front of them. And in some cases, they're even more aggressive in some areas where they really feel that the curriculum is more developed. We have teachers that are more comfortable in knowing some of the different instructional strategies because they've been teaching that curriculum a little bit longer. We may have stronger students coming in the fall. And so our principals have pushed the envelope in some areas as well. So This again is an overall district level plan that comprises, aggregated data across multiple grade levels in some cases. But if you take some time to look at the school-based goals as well, you'll see that they're even more specific by grade band. So simple answer, yes, Michael. We are looking at spring to spring typically, while still taking into consideration that fall baseline information, because we know we have a different group of students in front of us, and we're trying to be aggressive yet achievable, right?
Well, yeah, and I love the fact that you're increasing the growth as you're increasing the targets. And as we know, as the target goes up, of course, the growth gets harder, right? Because there's less room for improvement, let's say. And so I like that you're doing both of those things. That's really ambitious, and that's great to see. One last question. Just these are aggregate numbers. When you're talking to the principals who are talking to the teachers and all, and you guys are following the students, right? As they go from kindergarten to first to second all the way up. Do you typically see, and I'm not sure necessarily the question to ask here, but are you typically seeing that the majority of students here just on an individual basis? Because look, we can hide a lot of things sort of in the aggregate data. Are you seeing that there is constant improvement amongst most of those children? And if there is not, or in those cases where there is not, I assume we're giving them additional or supplemental help and services in order to make sure that each individual student is progressing from where they have been, sort of, and growing throughout their educational career.
Just to bring that up, I'm glad you brought that up, and it's really hard to answer that question at a district level because it is so student specific.
Sure.
That is what I mentioned regarding the multi-tiered system of support and what our system and structure looks like in Weston. We've been working really hard over the last couple of years to create a handbook and a framework for what that looks like K through 12 in math and in literacy. And that's where our action steps are called out very specifically around how do we use our curriculum instruction leaders, how do we use our interventionists to help unpack that data and then translate that data into goal setting, action steps, all the way down to the student level. And how do we use the data? So even at the district level, we're using NWA, we're using DIBELS 8, but there's other metrics that we're also using that are more granular and more curriculum based to help make adjustments so that students are growing and meeting at least end of grade level expectations. And that's by grade level, by content area. And those are different targets, right? When you look at the classroom level, and that's what the data team structure, why the data team structures are so important. And I'm really excited to have our team kind of talk a little bit more in detail at our curriculum committee meeting in November, when they really dive into the MTSS system, which doesn't just include academics, but it also includes social emotional learning and behavior as well, when we look at our system and structure and how all those things relate together.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I have two inputs. The first is very specific to science, close to my heart. And I think you could add something which is a real positive, which is the use of external experiences, right? I'll give you an example. We started with the high school reps, right? They're going to the Peabody Museum, natural science. It's the premier natural science museum in the world at Yale. And I know the 8th graders are going to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, a remarkable science museum. So you have like external excitement generators, right? That could be a thing to add because we're doing it, and why not highlight that? And then I have an overall observation. I like a lot of the June 2026 deadlines because it's a sea change. It's for the benefit of the students, the teachers, and the parents. We're showing some sense of urgency, which is good. You don't want to do urgency for the sense of getting something done and incomplete. You want the sense of urgency because it has to get done right, and better now than later, right? So that's a sea change. I really like that a lot. And I think Steve will comment in one specific area of urgency, but clearly we hit on this earlier with the HVAC discussion. I thought Michael and David were exactly right. And then Chad added in, it has to happen yesterday, right? The kids are at risk here. So why not do this job right and do it expeditiously? I think that carries over to the general view we should have campus wide. And again, I like the sense of urgency. So thank you.
I personally like the fact that we are a very high performing district. That's evidenced by all the different awards we've received in a relatively short period of time, before school was out. And yet you're raising the bar, right? You're raising the bar. Not you, the whole district is raising the bar to get to an even higher level, and you're going to be held and want to be held accountable for that. I mean, that's that's something to be proud of. It's a challenge, and you're meeting the challenge. Every teacher, support staff, every member of the administration is meeting the challenge. And there'd be a lot more to be learned in the spring, but it's a high bar already that you're just going to raise. You're going to raise even higher to the benefit, of every child in the school system. Shall we move on to the consent agenda?
No, Steve, before we move off district improvement, one of the things, sure, I thought other board members might chime in. So if we're done with that, before we shift, I do want to add one other thing, which is, and this is timely because of that project you just watched us through, which is, I often feel like as a board member, we put you in this very difficult situation, which is in the fall, we say, show us how well you've done. And in the spring, we say, great, but do it for less money. And that's the conundrum that we tend to drive. Now, I'm not going to be on the board after this meeting. The Democratic Town Committee decided to run a different candidate. That's all good. I wish them well. And apparently the incoming board is going to be a tremendously experienced board. So I'm like, thumbs up on Weston, go team, go. Yes, Board of Ed. And since I won't be here in person to ask these questions, that's why I'm framing them now. Last year, when budget season rolled around, the first questions that we gave all of you were around like austerity and why isn't this lower, and trying to carve every nickel out. And then in April, May, and June, we got zillions of angry emails from parents about staff losses and parents being upset that teachers were being cut. So because I'm not going to be here, I want to share two questions that I may ask from public comment in that point. And the two questions are simply, how many teachers or a head count will we have to lose based on the numbers we're talking about right now? And then pointedly to the district, does this budget give you what you need, not like the bare minimum, but what you need to keep going with this incredible district improvement plan you just walked us through? Since I won't be here, I wanted to position those two things right now, because you need resources to do the kind of performance you just talked about and just walked us through in this district improvement plan. Thank you for that. And thank you for the Blue Ribbon status last year and all the amazing achievements that you've done. And it's our job as a board and as a community to help build the foundation that lets you do your jobs.
Chad, I'm very sorry to hear that you've been canceled, but we look forward to your public comments at our
To which we will not
public
respond.
meetings.
Yeah.
What's that?
To which we will not respond.
Right.
I would expect nothing more nor nothing less.
But you should speak up during
Yeah.
public comment during budget season.
I will. I'll be there to bang the drum for Go West and Go.
You'll have a louder, unencumbered voice.
And thank you for giving us all of your time and expertise. It's been a pleasure working with you, Chad.
Well, thank you, but I turn the thank you around. The only thing the thank you I think that should be directed is to the teachers and the faculty, because boy, oh boy, do you get an inside view of how hard this gig is. We're just the volunteers who show up and, ask you questions. You all have to work these pretty epic weeks, week after week and month after month. And my only regret of any time spent on the board is that we have not even more clearly been able to send some love and some appreciation to the faculty and the teachers, because God, is this a difficult career and profession, and you all not just get by, but you excel and you thrive in it. So the community owes you all a huge thank you. truly.
Thank you, Chad.
Okay, on to staffing.
We have a very brief consent agenda staffing item this evening. I just want to highlight two particular people. We recently welcomed Casey Bates to the middle school in the role of social worker. We're very pleased to have Casey with us. And I would be remiss if I didn't note that we, as of this December, Dawn Egan will be leaving the district. Many of you know Dawn was hired by the Weston Public Schools in 2018, but has long served the public schools prior to that time as PTO president and as a parent volunteer. And so we certainly wish Dawn luck in her next endeavors, but that will be a significant loss for us.
As to the community as well. I mean, her impact on the Weston community is has been felt by everybody. I mean, she's just a force unto herself, and wish her well in Fort Worth, Texas. Should we move on to the district updates?
I have a motion, please.
Yeah, sorry.
Move that the Weston Board of Education accept the consent items as presented by Dr. Gavoni.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On to the superintendent's update.
I don't have a formal update this evening, but I just want to thank the board for again allowing us to present our district improvement plan. Encourage you to take a look at some of the school improvement plans and look for the very tight alignment and coherence between the two and how the work trickles all the way down to the school and the classroom level. And thank you for your kind comments, suggestions. We're appreciative of the input and the feedback.
And just adding just a bit on to just an update. One of the things that you'll be hearing in the next meeting is an update on enrollment. The enrollment projections will be or have been or will be submitted to the state. They have to be certified by the end of this month. And then, as we have done in the past and always have done in the past, they'll be presented to the board in November. Tracy?
Hi again, everybody. I just have a couple of updates from the PPS department. As a follow-up to my update last month, I'll be meeting with our district-wide SEL working group next week to begin to evaluate our social emotional learning program district-wide to identify areas of strength, areas of growth, and any potential redundancies that need to be addressed at the building and/or district level. We'll also be working to determine the best ways to illustrate how our programs and initiatives fit together and work in conjunction with one another to support our students. I was very pleased to have the opportunity to attend the first panel discussion hosted by the Weston PTO Special Education Liaisons at the Weston Library last week. It was very well attended and provided families with an opportunity to hear from other families about their experience with special education in the district. Related to the PTO liaisons, they have been very busy. I met with them a couple of weeks ago to talk about their goals and priorities for the year, and am very much looking forward to working in partnership with them to continue to improve our offerings and communication with families across the district. Just so the community knows, this will include a restructuring of my parent meetings this year. We're going to dedicate a meeting for each building in the district to make sure that our topics are relevant and more focused to families at a particular age level. So our first meeting will be focused on the HES parent community. We're about to start the planning process for that. And more information will be forthcoming. And that's it for me.
Questions for Tracy? Phil?
Okay. start the year, the key takeaway for the quarter is mixed. We have some pockets of slight modest deficits, and we have better than expected non-resident tuition revenues. The good news is that we've been here before. We were at a similar place last year, but we found a way to mitigate those deficits. So we will continue to monitor what we have, and we will make all the adjustments that's needed. Just want to highlight that attached to on the agenda or to the packet is results from the state partnership plan, which shows their financial result as of the end of June. Health insurance continued to be a concern, not just for Weston, but for the entire state and ultimately for the entire country. So this may have an impact as we go towards our budget for fiscal 27. But all in all, we're starting the year in a good place. Any specific questions on the report?
Phil, I just have a question just about the medical, and the healthcare, and the health insurance premiums and costs. So, look, to your point, just on the salaries front, I would imagine that, there'll be turnover and some of that, bad guy of whatever, 200 plus $1,000 that'll turn throughout the year as we saw last year as well. On the insurance side, Phil, obviously it doesn't impact us necessarily this year, but for the budget, as you just mentioned, do you have any indication at this point what that increase will be like as we enter budget season for next year? Are there estimates? What are you hearing? Because look, like last year, what we're trying to do is, of course, minimize the impact in the front of the classroom and, of course, all the programs that we're offering. And this medical insurance seems to be eating up, more and more of that budget. And I'm just trying to sort of work through how we mitigate those costs. I mean, we moved to the SPP last year. And so I guess the question is, do we have an estimate sort of the cost of what, an idea of what that will be for next year as we head through budgetary season? And then I'm assuming you're thinking of options, or to the extent that we can mitigate those costs, what options are available to us? Again, greater discussion than we have time for tonight. But just a general question for you about the outlook there.
Yeah, it's rather challenging. I'm not quite sure where we'll ultimately be. I mean, I think the rate increase for the plan coming into fiscal 26 was, I think, somewhere, let's say about 10% or so, including that Fairfield County adjustment. The plan itself right now has a deficit, right? And in order for them to have a positive fund balance, one of the ways that they do that is by the premium increases. So it's still a little bit early to see. I'm hoping that as the year progresses, that the claims will stabilize somewhat, and that will have a positive impact in terms of what the rates will be. But I think it's not out of the realm of possibility to be anywhere between 10 to 15%. I hope it's not. It's a little bit early for us to consider options because we don't have a sense as to what our claims experience is right now because the plan just started July 1. So it will have to take some time for us to, for the claims to mature and for us to kind of explore some options. Again, as I like to say, right, our entire process is a marathon, right? We're going to start our process this month. And we'll have a better sense when the actual rates are finalized in early spring. So it's a long process, but I'm really hopeful that it will not be too much of a negative or a drag on the entire budget. But we always find a way to mitigate things, and we will hope to continue that for fiscal 26.
Thanks, Phil.
Before we move on, we forgot to do something at the beginning of this meeting, is to recognize the newest doctor in the House. We now have 3 doctors in the House. Julie, congratulations on receiving your PhD. It's a tremendous achievement.
Thank you.
Shall we move on to committee
We have
report?
Motion, please.
We have to have a motion on.
No, you have to move, Phil. Sorry.
I have that. I didn't want to interrupt embarrassing Dr. Gavoni.
Okay.
David? Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the September 2025 financial report as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we can move on to the committee updates. Cabe? Lisa?
Okay, I have some good news to add to our other good news. Connecticut has the second best school system in the country. A new study from the Wallach Hub found that Connecticut has the second best school system in the country, and the study published in July 2025 considers test scores, funding, class size, and school safety among other factors. Also interesting is Connecticut has the third highest share of students who receive a 3 or higher on AP exams. So Connecticut is the second best school system, and we're at the top of Connecticut. So the 57th annual PDK poll on public attitudes toward public education, formerly the Gallup PDK poll, examined a range of educational topics. Data was collected in June from a national sample of 1,005 adults. And a few of the highlights were public attitudes to public education. A majority of U.S. adults support limiting cell phone use during the school day. Despite recent political proposals, 66% of U.S. adults oppose eliminating federal education department, and parents are interested in access to public education funding for the purpose of sending their children to private or religious schools. Some suggestions from CABE was using Robert's Rules and Orders to support implementation and organization of the board after elections. CABE has a delegate assembly of November 20th, if you can attend. And just as a date to consider, December 9th, for the whole day, there's a new board member orientation.
Thanks, Lisa.
Who's first, Lisa?
Say it again?
Who's the first state?
Well, it wasn't in the paper. I know it's always Massachusetts. So Massachusetts also, Michael, you'll have to know that Massachusetts also has the highest property taxes to support the best state in the union for education.
More than Jersey, huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thanks, Lisa.
Sure.
CES?
Nothing quite as elaborate to report on as Lisa.
I finally got it right.
Yeah. Curriculum committee?
So for curriculum committee, our two real big hot topic items were the Weston Middle School No Place for Hate initiative and the Sandy Hook Promise anonymous reporting system, both of which I believe are in full operation now. And we've spent most of our meeting talking about the implementation and making sure students had access to it. And I will plug here once again that parents should encourage their students, especially at the high school level, to download the Sandy Hook Promise app, because when they need it the most, they're not going to think about downloading the app. So download the app before you need it. I think Dr. Henkel did a good job on that, right? Okay.
Thanks, David. The EOC, Peter?
We didn't meet this month, but again, a sense of urgency. I like the messaging. Maybe it's like release the chokehold on the programs and take it to the public. I thought that was appropriate language and dates.
The negotiations committee, we completed the negotiations with the administrators union and the teachers union, both of which have been approved by their members. So teachers union contract is been approved for the next 4 years, and the administrators for the next year. Policy Committee. Sharon's not here.
The policies we discussed
Okay.
were presented to the board, and I guess we'll be going back for a second read.
Safety and Security, Mike? Go.
We did not meet this month, but we'll pick it back up next month.
WEF is Sharon.
I can actually report real quick, just because I want to give them a plug. Laura Cadis and I are the representatives. They're the liaisons between the school and WEF, and they are planning a circus. And so if you are looking for tickets, it's on November 15th. It's a great way to support the Weston Education Foundation, which basically all they do is raise money to support the schools and all the requests that come out of our of grants and other things that the schools are looking for. And so it looks like it's going to be a really exciting fundraising idea. So you can get those tickets on the Weston Education Foundation website, but also our principals K through 5 have been putting that in their week ahead newsletter as well.
Thanks. So the next meeting of the Board of Education is on the 17th of November. So if you'll indulge me for a minute or so, like Chad, this is my last meeting as a member of the Board of Education. It's kind of bittersweet, to say the least. I wrote some notes to myself, thinking about a few things. So I asked to join the Board of Education from the Board of Finance for, among many reasons, but most importantly, to advance the long delayed and long overdue capital improvement plans, which began in 2017 with the Silver Petrocelli feasibility study, followed again in 2019, and then in 21 and 22, the Facilities Optimization Committee completed its study. Unfortunately, the Board of Education, having received that report at that time, did not move forward with a recommendation, and we lost yet even more time. Our school buildings are not getting any younger, and investing in the schools safeguards the learning environment for the future success of our children. After 20 years of being a Board of Finance member in Westport and Weston and reviewing 20 Board of Education budgets, I thought it would be an easy transition to the Board of Education, and I could not be more wrong. As Chad pointed out earlier, our schools are like a city within a city, and in many ways, much more complex. You and the new members of the Board of Education will have a very active 9 months coming up. The budget process begins in December, and you have to bring forward a decision on the school configurations by June. As Phil pointed out, June is a critical month. You lose June, you lose another year. We've already been a victim of the failure of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to take our recommendation at the time forward to the town. I would anticipate that the new board, along with Erica, will review the work of the consultants. I would hope they would do that. And again, offer your recommendation for the school campus. Back to June as the critical month. Our buildings are not getting any younger. Once you decide, I hope the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance will not be an impediment to having the town decide by referendum the best course of action. The Board of Education, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance are not the determinants. Rather, it's the citizens of Weston. And this planning, to Peter's point, must begin immediately. And as I said before, the schools are not getting any younger. So while I have the floor for another minute or so, I'd like to address the naysayers in the community, those who only look at the negative and do not celebrate the positive. You certainly should voice your opinions. However, all is not negative. Celebrate the positives. Weston High School's recognition as the #3 high school in the state is a positive. Weston having the third best test scores in the state is a positive. WIS being recognized as a blue ribbon school is a positive. Our students, teachers, support staff, and administrators are all proud of these well-deserved recognitions. I'd like to thank everybody for this opportunity. Tina, Tracy, Julie, Phil, Dan, Mike, Jim, Laura, Megan, you've all been terrific to work with. Unfortunately, Jennifer and Jason, it's only been a month or so, but I know from everything I've heard, everybody is excited to have you join the Weston School community. And I would be remiss in not recognizing Lisa Barbiero for her guidance over the past few years. She always told me like it is, and never took the chance not to tell me her opinion. Jody, what can I say but thanks? You've always kept me in line, answered my stupid questions, and you've been terrific to work with. And I am personally excited. Erica decided to join our community. It's only been a month, and everyone I've spoken with are so impressed with what you've accomplished in such a short period of time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Erica's long-term imprint on our school community. And my fellow board members, we've accomplished quite a lot, and we did it as a group. Our discussions at times were lively, but no one was confused about the goal. Investing in our children's education is the future. And so with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Thank you for your comments.
Is there a second?
Before I second it, I want to thank you, Steve, for your support. And as the chair of the Board of Ed, you've moved us swiftly and quickly to make, great decisions for the staff, the students, the community. And so I'm on the board a short time, and I've learned so much from you and from everyone else. And I have to thank you, personally thank you, and thank you for the Weston community. You've been fabulous in giving your time and energy and intelligence to help our community and our school. So thank you. And now I'll second it.
Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Good night, everybody. I'll be watching.
Good night.